그래서 지금 우선은 저희가 이 오픈 토크를 기획하게 된 이유는 우선 전 세계에서 두 번째로 저희가 단편 영화제로서는 두 번째로 그 넷팩에 가입을 하게 됐습니다.
So the reason that we planned this open talk is because I think we are actually the second short film festival to become a member or become a part of NEPAC.
그래서 앞으로 조금 더 아시아 영화에 대해서 관심을 가지고 아시아 영화의 진흥을 위해서 각국의 감독님들이 함께 모여서 우리가 이렇게 정보도 나누고 그다음에 서로의 상황도 이해하고 그리고 더불어서 앞으로 혹시 뭔가 더 좋은 기회를 만들 수 있을까 해서 이렇게 자리를 마련하게 됐습니다.
So through this open talk, we would like people to get together and increase interest in films coming out of Asia and also to promote them. And so maybe we could come together as filmmakers and people working in the field. We can share information and we can talk about our individual situations in our countries and maybe possibly come up with some really good solutions.
그리고 저희가 부산국제 단편영화제에서 2년 전에 아시아 특별전을 한번 만들었었고요. 프로그램을. 그 다음에 올해 다시 그 아시아 특별전을 부활시켰습니다. 그 부활시킨 프로그램은 이제 그 2년 전과 다르게 2년 전에는 저희가 이제 아시아를 소재로 한 영화를 상영을 했다면 지금 올해 같은 경우는 정말 아시아에서 살고 있는 각국의 영화들을 저희가 소개를 하려고 했고요. 그리고 나라별로는 중국, 인도네시아, 그 다음에 태국 이렇게 세 나라의 80년대생 이후의 젊은 감독들이 어떤 생각을 가지고 어떤 상황에서 영화를 만드는지를 올해는 보여드리고 싶었습니다.
2 years ago, the Busan International Short Film Festival had a special program for Asian cinema, and most of it were films that dealt with Asia or Asian topics. This year we brought the program back, but there's a big difference. This year we have films that were made in Asian countries, and the countries include China, Indonesia, and Thailand. So we've invited films by very young directors who were born in the 80s, very young, to show their films.
그러면 이제 얘기를 이제 곧 진행을 하겠고요. 그 행사 진행에 앞서서 넷팩의 심사위원으로 와주신 두 분이 먼저 인사 말씀 하시고 그다음 얘기를 진행을 할까 합니다.
So before we begin, we'd like to introduce two members of the NEPAC jury.
먼저 필립체를 소개하겠습니다. 넷팩의 부대표로 계시고 6개 영화제 프로그램 컨설턴트로 활동하고 계십니다.
I'm sure you already know, but Philippe Chia is the Vice President of NEPAC, and he's also serving as Program Advisor for 6 different film festivals. You really need to get to know this guy.
그리고 이스마일 바스베스는 족자 아시아 영화제 프로그램 디렉터이면서 그리고 또 영화를 찍고 계신 직접 감독이시기도 하고요. 인사 부탁드릴게요.
And also we have Ismail Basbeth, who is the program director of the film festival, and he's also a filmmaker himself.
우선은 필립차에게 그러니까 넷팩 부대표로서 여기 참석을 해주셨는데 간단한 인사 말씀 들어보고 시작할까 합니다.
So we'd like to hear from Philippe Chia first, and possibly from his official position as Vice President of NEPAC.
Well, you're all friends, so I'm happy. If you're talking about short films now, right? So I'll just say something about Singapore. There's about 5 film schools in Singapore, so I think annually we make about maybe over 120 short films. Maybe 1/5 of that amount would come from independent productions outside of the film school. we used to have a short film fund, which the Singapore Film Commission would run every year. They would fund maybe like 10 short films. The budget is about 5,000 Singapore dollars. But they have removed that fund. Now they have a general fund where you can apply for 40% of your funding budget. And then there are two national events for short films in Singapore. One is the Singapore Short Film Awards, and then in the middle of the year there's the Singapore Shortcuts program run by the National Museum. One program is more independent, the other program is more national. So actually there is a consistent production of short films every year. And I think they also created a channel called SG Film, where you can watch shorts online. So that's also going on. But I think that's also a bit nationalistic, so you would not have a lot of the weird stuff getting up there. We have very serious censorship in Singapore, so a lot of the great stuff don't actually get seen. You actually need her to translate.
저기 통역 필요하신 분들이 별로 없어서 필요하시면 제가 수신기를 드릴게요. 그래서 저쪽에 안에서 동시로 해주는 게 나을 것 같아요. 어떨까요? 그쵸? 그래서 수신기.
저는 그러면 한국말로 영어로?
So I'm going to do some of this.
Yeah.
You guys can talk now.
Yeah. So we talk about Indonesia now with personality.
Listen up. Hello. I don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about since maybe I can tell you guys a little about the background of our film festival. At first, in Indonesia we have like only two film festivals, which is the national film festival. It's called like Indonesian Film Festival, and the other is Jakarta International Film Festival. And the Jakarta International Film Festival, they connect with more international networking, and the national one is only for like a domestic film festival to push more on the local industry. But then there was a time the political situation in Indonesia is changing when Soeharto is down, and film school is trying to, there is a lot of more film schools. Before there is only one film school in Jakarta. So basically a lot of people after this reformation is start to make a film but without a filmmaking background. A lot of them is from the anthropology, sociology, or others backgrounds that then use film as a medium to tell stories. Well, a lot of them is also working using a documentary at first, but then it started to develop, especially when then at that time Philip and one of the big famous and biggest film director in Indonesia, then Nugroho start to make this film festival. It's called Busan Asian Film Festival. The idea is actually to focus and try to bring more Asian film in Indonesia, especially in our city. At that time, exactly after the big earthquake in our city, there's a lot of victims at that time, and that's if we are not only screening and collect a lot of Asian film, but we also try to work more on the publics. That way we have this special program that we run every year now. It's called Open Air Cinema. It's to help the healing and everything before, but now it changed to more educative and try to connect with more audience in our city, in Jakarta. By the time the festival started to grow, the Jakarta International Film Festival is falling. They closed down for about 3 or 2 years. because of the fund issues. Yeah, because of the funds issues, it's not easy to find like a support from the government at that time. That's why they're closing down for a bit. Now they start to hold the festival again. At that time, there is a lot of filmmakers just like me. At the first time I worked for this film festival, I almost doesn't know anything about film. We just like I'm just starting to new one of documentary filmmakers. They introduced me to one of our colleagues, BISFF, and then we work together. And there is only seven at the beginning, seven of us making this film festival. Then by working for this festival, I start to learn how to make film. So basically, a lot of filmmakers in Indonesia, just like me, by working in the festival, helping the festival, they start to learn how to make also, not only programming. Now, the community is growing. Like now there is a lot of about 200 to 300 film communities, not film school, film community, where they can share idea of films from different backgrounds, and each community make their own films, and they connect each other among the city in Indonesia from different islands also, so they can exchange the product, do it independently. But now the political situation is a bit changing. Now the governments try to start to look film as a cultural strong point. Now, yeah, that's why the government in Jakarta, in the ministry, also try to support more filmmakers to involve in these cultural works. That's why they arrange also this new film festival from the education ministry. There is a fund also for filmmakers there, but it's not worked really well because it just started. Right? But at that time, the momentum is given by the central, by our city, because suddenly the ministry, they make this new special fund only for 3 cities in Indonesia. The first city is Aceh. Aceh, Aceh is famous about this Islamic law in Aceh, and the second city is Papua. Papua, there is a strong separatism issue. So, and the third one is our city, Yogyakarta, because too many artists that criticize the government. So these 3 cities a bit too dangerous for the government, so they give more money. This special fund only for these 3 cities. By doing that, then our colleagues, a lot of filmmakers who work for Jogja or our connection, then try to use that money to support more filmmakers. Now, the curator of the program is our colleagues also, Ifais Fansa, Yosef Andi, both of them is famous directors now, and Jogja Asian Film Festival try to help the government to connect with more film community by supporting this program. I think it just started. We're not really sure what's going to happen next, but it's still a good development since we can use this fund to help more young filmmakers to make more creative works. Yeah.
So I remember that year when I first went into Yogyakarta, I think it's 2006 maybe. Today you switch on the TV and you read about the earthquake in Nepal, but in 2006 there was the big earthquake in Yogyakarta. When you drive into the city, a lot of the buildings were cracked, breaking down, and then the festival did screenings outside in the villages where people had lost their homes and they were just living and camping in tents. So it was very hard to turn down the job. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you see Yogyakarta at the time, you knew that film had a mission. And I think the other thing about Yogyakarta, which is very striking, is the amount of, what do you call, students. It's actually like a student city because a lot of the higher learning universities are based there. Learning in all sorts of the arts and sciences, and so when he tells you about how the 200 film communities, that's for real. You will see them even sitting down on the streets, having coffee and discussing. This is like the Indonesian version of the European cafe culture, where they're on the streets and they're discussing ideas. It's very stimulating. Going back to Singapore for a bit, I was just thinking how important short films were for us. For example, in 1994, there was a short film called Pain. It was directed by Eric Koo. The film censors had banned the film, and it was in competition. The only compromise we could do with the film censors was to tell them that even if we couldn't screen it to the audience, we would screen it just for the jury. And that film won the best Singapore short film in that year in the Singapore International Film Festival. Because of that winning, he had money from the award. And then he used the money to make his first feature film, Me Pop Man. So that's how important shorts were. Even today, if you actually look at his filmography, his short films are the most exciting part of his career. Then, if you go further onwards, the next interesting filmmaker from Singapore, Royston Tan, his first major short film was very important. It was called 15, and it was about juvenile delinquents. And the beauty of that film is that everyone is real. The line between fact and fiction was very fluid, and it was a very powerful piece of work. It was so powerful that when he made the feature from that short film, it was also called 15, the feature film was banned. Again, the censors wanted numerous cuts to that film, I think more than 15 cuts. And so that film also cannot be shown in Singapore uncut. I think that if you can buy a DVD outside of Singapore, that's the most you can do, because you can't buy a DVD in Singapore. Later on again, he made another short film, Royston Tan. It was called Cut. That film enraged the film censors, and I showed it that year in Singapore as the opening short film, and the censors thought that I was personally attacking them. And subsequently, I paid the price for showing that film, Even though I told them that it was funny, it's cut. If you actually see that the short film was a musical, it was so funny, and you couldn't help but want to show it, So, but there you go, that's the kind of suffering that we went through.
지금 싱가포르의 어떤 영화 제작 상황, 그 다음에 이제 그리고 인도네시아의 제작 상황에 대해서 말씀을 드렸고요. 지금 이제 국가적으로는 또 중국 분들이 계신데요. 중국 쪽의 얘기를 좀 더 들어봤으면 좋겠습니다.
So we've heard about the situation in Singapore and the situation in Indonesia, and now we'd like to hear about the situation in China for short films.
Thank you. We are very honored first time to be Busan International Short Film Festival, and especially encouraged by Landscape of Asian Mixed Section program. It's also our first time to see variety films from Asian countries. For me, I may share two branches of short films in China from my experience, because I'm working in university, so I get some chance to know some commercial support for short films in China. But at the same time, I collaborate with my husband, Bai Shen. We are focused on independent animation. So for me, I think there are some contrast between independent and the commercial short films in China, but they also interact and dialogue with each other sometimes. As 2 years ago, I am a visiting scholar to Vancouver Film School. So then I have a chance when I'm back to China to get into the contact of Vancouver Film School and Shanghai University. So I realized actually, for example, in Shanghai, government supports a lot on film education and industry. That's why I think Filipino Shanghai International Film Festival get many supports from Shanghai government. And last year, Vancouver Film School very successfully opened a new campus in Shanghai. So it's named Shanghai Vancouver Film School, and I got to realize actually the mayor, the president of their broadcast company, Jason Hu, they support a lot for this project. Without the support of government, this kind of cooperation cannot be successful. That's my point of view. So in China, shorts in commercial way, you must get the funding and support from government. Yeah, but for independent animation, from our experience, I still feel the directors, especially the young directors, they are funded by international funding and organizations. Actually, we seldom get support from China, but we got one prize in China. It's an independent film festival in Nanjing. And this festival, we know, get many limited funding and financial support from government. They fund self-finance from some college, from some directors, from some people they really love and continue keeping maybe very basic living, but they're still devoted to film. I got to realize they may only have budget like 300,000 RMB each year. So you can see like many volunteers and students, they kind of work free for this festival, but we still feel very lucky because that may be the last one in China for independent animation, film festival. But there are some independent animation festival recently years. So I think maybe it's also a good starting and opening. That's why we really think very important artists to connect with each other internationally to find the supports for the future, to keep on continue our work. Not one work, I think should have many works in the future. And I really agreed to two directors you saying how to fund and support the directors. I'm a teacher in China, so I always feel very pity, even though some students, they made very great graduate work, but this is their last work, because they find a job, they may marry and have a baby, then they quit this career forever, and that's big pity. So last year I procured a very small program in London, Women Can Hold Half Sky. I pushed 5 young ladies from China of their animation work. It's a very small step, but I hope from my experience and some little work, we can work not only for ourselves, for other people. They love films and they love to express their feelings, use film or animation. Yeah, that's my opinion. Thanks.
중국 상황에 대해서, 그러니까 특히나 이제 그 학교에서 교수로 계시고, 그 다음에 이제 그 중국에서 이제 애니메이션을 만드시면서 뭐 이렇게 약간의 그 중국 독립 영화에 대해서라든지, 그 다음에 그런 지금 현재 상황들, 그다음 본인이 하셨던 일들을 약간 말씀을 해주셨는데요. 지금 어차피 저희 이렇게 많은 분들이 계시지 않아서 각자 돌아가면서 한 분씩 얘기를 들어보면 어떨까 합니다.
So we've heard about the independent filmmaking scene or film production in China, and also about making animations. And since there aren't that many of us here today, maybe we could hear from everybody about their situations.
Festival director.
So, I was English here, so I need to translate. 그러니까 아시아 영화와 관련해가지고 저희 단편 영화제 과거를 잠깐 말씀드리고 싶은 생각이 들어서 지금 이렇게 했는데요. 우리 영화제가 역사가 32년인데 원래 국내 영화제가 2000년부터 부산 아시아 단편 영화제라는 이름으로 했었거든요. 그 시대의 얘기를 좀 잠깐 제가 하고 싶어서 이렇게 지금 요청을 했습니다.
Hearing you talk about the past, I would also like to talk about the past of the Busan International Short Film Festival, which is now in its 32nd year. But originally, it was started in 1990 as the Asia Short Film Festival.
그래서 그 당시에는 이제 부산 국제영화제가 1996년에 만들어졌기 때문에 한국에 국제영화제가 거의 없었거든요. 그런데 이제 저희도 국제영화제를 해보자고 해서 부산 아시아 단편영화제라는 영화제를 만들었다 보니까 당시에는 초청 감독도 좀 아시아 감독들이었어요. 제가 지금도 기억나는 게 2003년인가 그 영화 대상을 받았던 작품이 싱가포르 작품인데 빅토리 싱의 로커스트라는 그 영화가 상을 받았던 기억이 납니다. 그럼 그때 감독은 오지 않았나 그렇긴 한데 대상을 500만 원을 갖고 가는 그런 기억이 지금 납니다.
So around that time, the Busan International Film Festival, it started in 1996. So before that, there were no international film festivals, or almost none. So we decided, well, let's try it. And so we started the Busan Asian Short Film Festival. And because it was the Asian Short Film Festival, obviously, we invited directors mostly from Asia. And the winner of the grand prize in 2003 was actually a film called Locust by a Singaporean director called Victor Singh. And so he won 5 million won, which is about $5,000 US, but I don't think he came.
근데 그 당시에 사실은 그 당시에 우리가 아시아 영화를 부산에서 본다는 것도 너무 신기했고 그리고 그 몇몇 감독들이 그 한국 부산을 찾아가지고 정말 즐겁게 서로 이야기를 많이 나눴던 그런 기억이 납니다. 특히 이제 당시 아시아 감독들이 많이 있었기 때문에 그래서 당시에 태국도 있고 일본, 중국은 확실치가 않은데 그렇게 해서 굉장히 끈끈한 유대를 가졌던 기억이 났는데 이게 조금 저희 영화들 규모가 조금 나름 좀 커지고 이제 에이시언이 아니고 인터내셔널로 바꾸면서부터 아시아 감독들 영화 만드는 사람들 필름메이커 사이에 교류가 약간 좀 약해지는 느낌이 오고 그래서 이번에 아시아 영화 섹션도 다 서로 만들게 된 건데 그래서 오늘 이렇게 말씀을 아시아 영화인들이 모여서 얘기하다 보니까 좀 더 또 그런 관계가 넷팩도 지금 가입하고 했으니까 우리 영화제에서도 좀 더 노력하고 해서 다시 10년 전에 우리 단편 영화제에서 했던 그런 분위기가 다시 좀 만들어졌으면 하는 지금 굉장히 개인적인 그런 또 욕심이라 그럴까요? 그런 생각도 좀 많이 지금 듭니다.
So at the time, it was a very rare opportunity that you could see films from other countries in Asia within Busan. And some of the directors did actually come to Busan, and it was a very close-knit kind of community at the time, and we were able to talk, everybody was able to talk a lot. And because all the directors were mostly, well, they were all from Asia. I think there were directors from Thailand and Japan. I'm not sure about China. But because it was such a small group, everybody was able to talk in depth with each other. And now that the film festival has grown bigger and it's become more international, I feel that the connection or the interaction or interchange between Asian directors has decreased. And that's why we're trying to start the Asian program or Asian section again. And now that we've also joined NAPAC, I think we should try harder and put in more effort so that we can go back and recreate the kind of atmosphere that we had 10 years ago.
그 당시 아시아에서 오신 감독님들이 영어를 그 당시에는 많이 잘 못해가지고 저하고 비슷해가지고 정말 대화를 많이 같이 잘 나눴던 생각이 나는 기억이 드는데 어쨌든 넷팩에 가입한 저희들 의도도 있고 그래서 정말 조금 이제 그냥 이렇게 저희가 얼굴만 스쳐가는 것이 아니고 내년부터는 우리가 이 넷팩 가입을 계기로 조금 아시아 감독들이 정말 얘기를 좀 많이 해보고 이런 자리를 좀 더 할 수 있는 방법을 찾아야 되겠다 이런 생각이 많이 저도 개인적으로 영화를 또 감독이 만든 사람에 대해서 그런 생각을 좀 해봅니다.
And the Asian directors who came to Busan at the time were kind of like me. Their English was very limited, so there wasn't a lot of dialogue. But now that we've joined NetPAC, and there's a special reason why we joined. So from next year, I would like to increase dialogue between Asian directors and find a way to make things better for everybody, because I'm also a filmmaker myself.
말씀을 드리면요. 그래서 이제 한국 상황을 잠깐 좀 말씀을 좀 하라고 해가지고 근데 한국도 제가 요즘 조금 이제 아쉬운 것은 그 10년 전에를 생각해 보면 그 당시에는 그러니까 학생 작품도 있었지만 그 좀 이미 대학을 졸업한 상태에서 영화를 그냥 만들고 이런 분들이 영화를 많이 만들었었어요. 근데 지금은 이제는 그 지원 프로그램도 있긴 있는데 그런 것들이 많이 이제 주로 이제 어떻게 보면 좀 대학생 작품들이 좀 많아지는 대신에 기존에 좀 장편을 만들었던 사람들이라든가 또 일반 흔히 우리가 말하는 그냥 그 어려운 가운데에서도 묵묵히 영화를 단편 영화를 만드는 이런 경향이 조금 줄어든 것 같은 느낌이 좀 많이 옵니다. 그 이유는 아마도 한국 영화가 조금 그러니까 산업적으로 발전을 조금 하는 과정에서 더 그렇게 된 것 같아요. 그래서 올해 영화제 하면서도 많이 느꼈는데 어떻게 조금 그 학생들 이외에 더 많은 일반 그 장편을 만드는 사람도 단편을 만들 수 있는 방법이 없을까? 나도 좀 장편 만들지만 단편을 만들어봐야 생각을 해가지고 아이디어도 좀 하나 생각을 해놨거든요. 이번 영화 보면서. 그래서 좀 그런 방향으로 조금 한국 같은 경우가 갔으면 좋겠다는 생각이 들고 나름 지원 프로그램들이 있긴 있지만 한국 같은 경우 많지는 않죠. 우리도.
그렇기도 하고 제작 지원 쪽으로 안 그랬어서 그런 것들 같은데.
그렇죠. 예, 그렇게 좀
배급이라든지 전무하지.
그렇죠. 배급이 만드는데 배급이 이루어지지 않고 뭐 이런 것들 때문에 많이 지금 어떤 면에서 좀 단편 영화의 위기가 아닌가라는 생각을 많이 지금 하고 있습니다. 한국에서.
I've been asked to talk a little bit about the situation specific to Korea, and it's sad that whereas 10 years ago a lot of films were being made by students, but there were also short films being made by people who were making feature films as well. And of course they were struggling to make a living, but they were still managing to produce some films. But nowadays we see a lot of student films, but it's very, very rare that we see anybody making short films after they've made feature films or other kinds of work. And so I think maybe one of the main reasons is because the Korean film industry has developed a lot commercially, and I think that possibly influenced that. So I've been thinking about what we can do to encourage people who are already making feature films to make short films as well. And so I have some ideas that I'm trying to develop as well. And there are some funds or support programs available for short films, but the problem is that they are mostly focused on production funds, so that you can get your film made, but after that there's no support, there's no distribution, or very little.
그러면 지금 그러니까 저희가 쭉 상황을 들어봤을 때 약간 영화 만드는 부분에 대해서 얘기가 쭉 됐었던 것 같아요. 예를 들면 학교 그러니까 영화를 만드는 방법을 배우는 학교라든지 아니면은 그다음에 펀딩을 어떻게 받을 수 있는지 이런 것들에 관련돼서 쭉 얘기가 됐었는데 혹시 각국에서 그러니까 배급과 관련된 단편 영화의 배급과 관련된 제가 알기로는 유럽 쪽에서는 굉장히 이 단편이 만들어졌을 때 배급이 될 수 있는 창구가 꽤 다양하고 많다고 알고 있어요. 근데 지금 그러니까 한국도 그렇고 다른 나라의 상황들은 혹시 어떤지 좀 한번 돌아가면서 얘기를 해봤으면 합니다. 우선은 인도네시아부터 시작해볼까요?
So we've talked about filmmaking and getting funding to have your film made, but maybe we should, like our director mentioned, maybe we could talk about what happens after that. So what do we do about distribution? Because in Europe, there are various routes or channels where you can distribute short films, but within Korea it's practically non-existent. So maybe we could talk about the situation in various countries, starting off with Indonesia.
I think what is most interesting about development of filmmaking in every country is always involving a political situation, right? Because film is also part of the cultures, like that we can use films to speak of our own standpoint, our own opinion. But then again, in Indonesia, before we are talking about distribution, I think I just want to really talk a little about these political situations in the filmmaking community, because usually many of us filmmakers, they're only thinking about making films. They only focus on makings and makings and making again. Maybe at that time, if for example, if Philip Garinugro and if Vice Versa doesn't make this film festival, maybe it will still the same. We only focus on making. Since the channel to make a film is very limited in Indonesia, then many of our filmmakers that they learn by themselves in each city, they start to move to Jakarta so that they can work more commercially, earn more money, then they can go back to make their own film, something like that. That's the strategy for them to survive, right? Because we have no much funding in our country, so we need to do that our own. But then again, the situation now is a bit changing. For example, I can tell you guys a little about how I fund my first feature film. At that time, 3 years ago, I have this idea of making my first feature film. It's an experimental work. Usually experimental works, there is nobody who want to put money in this kind of film, right? But then at that time I was thinking that I want to make a films that I completely have an authority to do whatever I want. So then I start to produce it my own. Then I try to talk with a lot of people from the commercial world, from the independent world. I try to connect with more people. Then I realized that our strongest weapon is not money, but it's a network. At that time, I realized that, okay, even I don't have money to make a film, but I have a pretty much strong network in these two kind of words, right? Then I combined that. I met with a famous film editor in Indonesia. He was an editor of Garinugro House, Opera Jawa. He has this editing facility, and I talked with him, and he told me that if you really want to make this kind of film, just don't use a lot of money. So you can, ask for a little money, but from everyone. Then he gave me his money also and the editing facility, and I met with our friend Mirna, and I talked with her and her husband that they are actually making this new channel on distribution, and they start to develop that company. So I tell them that it's better for you to give me money to produce, then we can exchange. I can give you a film to start the prototyping of the distribution channel. So it's like we work with our friends, but we need to really know the intention of each our friend, that maybe we can support each other. That's what happened. But then I was thinking, by doing this, I need an international promotion, right? At that time, then I have an idea of applying to Rotterdam for funding. At that time, actually the money is not that big, right? But the network for promotion is really big. Then I apply. At that time, I was finished already the first draft of the script. I tell them that I already finished the first draft. Is it possible for me to still apply for a script development fund? And they say, as long as it's not finished, it's possible. Then I apply for them with this many people supporting me. Then they select my work as one of the recipient of the funding. The money is not that important actually because it's really small. It's help for us, but it's small actually. But the word recognition using Rotterdam is really strong. Like people notice of our project since the very beginning. Then by doing that, I just shoot the film. I finish it on time for the Rotterdam. Because this kind of experimental work, I think it's better to have Rotterdam to screen it for the first time. But lucky, we are really lucky. Then Rotterdam really trying to push this film into the competition, and it got selected in the competition. So by telling this, I just want to say that actually it still exists. This kind of people in Indonesia that want to support each other. It's only a little. But I tell to the international words of cinema also that I think the most important thing in our filmmaking and industry is our own voice. You can get a lot of funding. You can work with a lot of famous directors or famous filmmakers in the world. You can do a lot of programmers. But if your own voice disappears, then it's nothing. I think for me personally as a filmmaker, the most important thing is to guard, to protect this idea of myself, So when only a little people helping me, that's okay. As long as they accept me as the way it is, that's the way of I am, something like that. And then with this distribution channel, we are start to maybe I can talk more about that later because it's actually her company. There's two of them, maybe we can talk about more. But then for this project, I initiated this creative laboratorium. It consists of the first idea is because many filmmakers become a cannibal in Indonesia. They learn filmmaking by watching a lot of film, by watching a lot of films. Then they use that film as an inspiration to make other film. It's more like cannibal, right? Human eating human. But in our city, it's actually, believe me that our city is actually a cultural city where we can meet with very famous and internationally knowledgeable artists, painters, performers, everything. Every artist is working in our city. So at that time I was thinking, why filmmaking not start with these artists? Because maybe we can affect each other's idea, right? Then I initiate this Busan Basic Lab. It's a laboratory that we have no money actually, this laboratory. We only has idea. And we start this project by talking with more people, but not only in film industry. Because we are kind of stuck. The film industry people is only that we knew that already. We knew people that want to work with us. But on the other side, for example, for production designer, if we work as a production designer in a film, it's better that we have a artist consultant on the color, and then painting is important to meet with the painter, right? Something like that. So we initiate this laboratorium, and we start to work with other artists in interdisciplinary platform. And my film project, Another Trip to the Moon, is the prototype project. So basically, I wrote my script, it's finished, then myself, I make a new interpretation of the script into a film, into a format, a film format, then it's finished. And I also invite many independent musicians which in Jakarta and Jogja to read the script and make their own interpretation of this story. And this album, music album, all of their music, it will be one in a music album, one music album. And then I also invite like a famous young writer, a poetry writer in Makassar. It's at a different city again, it's different island than us. I give him this script and he make a new interpretation and make a quote of this film by himself. So basically all of this product, we give a same title like Another Trip to the Moon, but it's also like a sample of work for us to show to the world, to the people in Indonesia also, that as long as we have this network, we can strengthen each other in idea. Because if we wait for more money, it never exists, never enough. Money is never enough. But idea, I think, knowledge is the most important thing. So we need to connect with more people again and again to try to challenge our idea. And at this time, then I'm talking with one of our famous video artists in Indonesia, that we are gonna make like an installation, video installation. It's adapt. My idea is actually I adapted from bioskop keliling. How to say bioskop keliling in?
When you show movie everywhere, you can show it in an open air.
Yeah. There is a tradition in Indonesia that we can move around while watching a film.
Yeah, with the projector, you can focus outside. Yeah, basically we adapt that idea into this installation. We're gonna make these installations. It's maybe only for 10 people. This is an alternative distribution where we can put our book there, our CD music album there, and our film there. So there will be when we do our presentations, we're gonna move like from art event to art event, film event to film event. This installation actually an artwork itself, but inside of this installation, we can watch a film, we can listen to the music album, and we can read the book inside. That's the idea. And by doing this, as this is also an adaptation of bioskop keliling, I don't know how to say it in English, these characters. So we can put a ticket for everyone who watch the film. But the bonus is they can listen to the music free, just like the old days when we want to buy a music, we can listen first, something like that, and they can read the book for free. But if they want to go involved, they can buy the plan for at that installation. Actually, this idea actually is not only art form, but our laboratory is also concerned more on the artist management and creative management. How we really concern on every artist can make anything that they want. But this fluid management creative, they can change to taking care of each artist differently. For example, this idea of installation only for this project, another trip. Maybe for other project we will change again to make the best of it. So for each works that we work together, something like that. So basically this can be happening because we try to open ourselves to connect with more people, not only with film but also with other art discipline. Yeah, I hope this can be finished in December. I hope. It's just we're still looking for the money, maybe because this installation is a bit, but at least we screen this our film. It got selected in a film festival, right? And we don't work with sales agent because we doesn't want them to have the money that we
we supposed to be have, because when we working with sales agent, they use our film also to earn money for them, right? We basically taking care of our film, of the festival strategies and selling and everything, so that we can earn the money directly. Then we can use this money to move to others, artwork, something like that. Each work, like Russia and Poland, we ask for screening fee, and the screening fee, they send it to us directly, right? Because we don't work with sales agents, we taking care of ourselves. So we can use that to apply to more festival, and we can use that to develop new project and something like that. It's easier for us to work like that rather than working with sales agent, for example. I think that's also a kind of an example of alternative distribution, that we can do it our own. For each film, maybe having a different strategy. Yeah, it's a big homework, but we need to do that because we are the most person that care so much on our work, right? We cannot depend it to our other people, I think. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a problem.
So we find a word, it's a walking cinema. It's a very nice. The term, walking cinema.
Oh, walking cinema, yeah.
It's a word. Walking cinema. So you can take the...
That may not be right.
It's a very nice, we can make a U-turn.
Yeah,
Walking
that
cinema.
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 우선은 그러니까 이스마일이 그러니까 단지 이제 그 영화를 만드시는 분들은 이제 어느 나라나 항상 다 비슷한 상황일 거예요. 이렇게 아주 이렇게 부자로 태어나지 않는 이상은 본인이 영화를 만들기 위해서 이렇게 그 자본을 이제 그 수급하고 그렇게 해서 영화를 만드는 게 쉽지 않은 일인데 그러니까 우선 인도네시아 상황을 저희가 처음에 들었을 때 그렇게 좋은 상황은 아니었지만 지금 이제 그것들을 타개하기 위해서 굉장히 좋은 윈도우를 본인이 막 연구해서 고민하고 해서 이제 그걸 만들고 그다음에 지금 그러니까 그 말을 들었을 때 굉장히 약간 그러니까 저희 그 영화제의 이 피곤함이 확 깨는 그런 정도의 굉장히 좋은 아이디어를 얘기를 해줘서 이런 좋은 정보가 여러분께도 그러니까 같이 창의적으로 좀 이용이 됐으면 하는 그런 생각이 들고요. 그러니까 저도 이제 그 DMZ 다큐멘터리 영화제에서 잠시 일을 했을 때 이렇게 프로그램 쪽 외에도 이제 피칭을 진행을 하면서 이런 아까 얘기 들었던 이제 책이라든지 아니면 음악이라든지 영화를 소개한다든지 이런 것들이 한꺼번에 이루어지는 좀 다이나믹하게 이루어지면서 그 다음에 그것이 기본적으로 그냥 소개에서 끝나는 것이 아니라 그러니까 소개에서 더불어서 펀딩을 그러니까 네트워크를 만들고 펀딩을 받고 이런 것까지 연결되게끔 하는 이런 굉장히 큰 노력이 그러니까 지속적이고 큰 노력이 굉장히 저에게는 굉장히 좋은 정보이고 좋은 케이스라고 생각합니다.
That's called merchandising in the film industry.
Yeah.
You have to do it all in the beginning. 그 이스마일 감독님이 지금 sorry. So Ismail was saying that he was talking about the situation in Indonesia, and I think that for filmmakers, especially short filmmakers, the situation is very similar for every country. And so unless you were born very rich, unfortunately, the situation is the same, and you really have to struggle to come up with the money to make your work. And from what I heard, the situation in Indonesia is not that great, but I think Ismail has come up with a wonderful window of opportunity, and it's something that made me open my eyes and made me forget about all the fatigue that I have working for this film festival, because it's like a breakthrough idea. And I hope that it can be sustained and applied to everyone who needs it. Because when I worked for the DMZ Docs Film Festival, Documentary Film Festival before, because I was working on the programming, but also I was working with the pitching sessions. And I feel that what he's doing now, like introducing the book, the music, or the movie all together, you have this network, a very strong network, and maybe like it already has worked for him, where the network has led to funding, and this has helped to continue the artistic work. So thank you very much for the great information.
And before we move to Singapore, Felicia, why don't you introduce your works, Mirna?
Hi everyone. The concern that I have about Indonesian filmmakers, this is new territory for me. I was not in film in Indonesia, but like a year ago, I went to see, because I make a film because of Ismail pushed me to make something that I know, to just make a film, and then I have a great opportunity that being shown in Yogyakarta Film Festival, and I met so many short filmmakers there. They are very young, they are very talented, they have like beautiful story to tell. I mean, I saw the film and like backstage I talked to the young directors. They have many ideas. The thing is that they don't have any funding. They don't know how to make to produce their next movie. So that's pretty depressing when they have to, beg for money to make the other project, or if they go to like a brand, they have to put a product placement in their movie. That's not very nice there for the other. That's very frustrating. That makes me so think, how can this independent filmmaker can self-sufficient their own movie? That's why I try to make like a platform in digital media where people that have short film not just upload it after the festival is finished, just upload it free online on YouTube or Vimeo. Or when people ask, can I see your film? And then you just, okay, I can give you a link in Vimeo. Now I'm with my husband, I try to make a platform that filmmaker can put film online. But when people want to see, you have to pay. Even for like very cheap money, like 99 cents to pay-per-view or something, it helps. It helps them to self-sufficient their next project. I think that's the why I make this kind of platform. The website is called batanijo.com. We're still testing about the programming and stuff, but we are making sure that we cannot be pirated, because that's the one concern that filmmaker was asking. Can it be downloaded and pirated? Okay, I'm working on the very special program that I will make sure that that thing doesn't get pirated. And also, other than screening, how do you call it? POD? So pay for streaming. Also, because in Indonesia there's one cinema, two, I think cinema, one owned by CG or something, and one is the national, the big cinema. That's a really screen many of independent films. We made like a USB that can, when people in other island wants to screen the film, you just can buy the USB from us, and we can send there. And doesn't matter if they gonna play it on the cinema, or if they just have a projector and a wall, or in the restaurant with a big TV. You can watch the film, and it's very with a small screening fee. I think that will help, the artists and the filmmaker to help support themselves to make another. And it's all transparent. You can see all the people that downloaded, that buys, or it's very transparent. You have your own back office that you can check how much money do you make, how much, who seeing your film, and stuff like that. So it's very transparent. We are helping the filmmakers that have good ideas too. They can make their own next project independently. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Also, we have a program in buttonissure.com because we still needed curating good movie to put on the website, so we make a funding. Can you just explain?
Why not you? It's your company.
You talk more interesting than he, so.
Oh, no. It's your responsibility.
Okay, we have this program for funding feature films and also short films, where we select like 5 short films per year to be. We help to give small amount of funding for 5 short films per year, and then 2 feature films. But it's small money, but I hope it will, help them get started to make to find other funding. And after after it finished, it will be running in the website. So that's how we don't use marketing like advertising. We just want to use networking, word of mouth between filmmakers and the community to support this kind of what? Alternative. Okay.
Are you going to have a plan to submit the
Yes.
project from the outside?
Yes, I'm hoping where Asian filmmaker can help support other Asian filmmakers. Like, for example, Ismail helping me to make my first film. So I'm hoping I can also help other filmmakers to start making their films. Yeah. Not from just Indonesia, but other countries.
There would be one chance in your life.
It was an honor to sit next to you. I just want to ask you, Ismail, that you actually made like 2 short films before this feature, right? Didn't you? So how did you distribute, or how did you get those films shown after finishing? You didn't talk about those 2 short films. I think one is called Shelter and another was called Hideaway or something.
I actually made before this first feature film 10 short film. And I made like about 10, but there is 3 of them that's really get shown in international, like around, it's playing around in many festivals. And I think this is also interesting, but as for me, the idea of making films is actually, me myself, I like to do an experimenting with storytelling, right? It's not only the form of the film, but also the structures and everything. So for this 10 film, I have like a 10 different approach of making films. That's the way I learn filmmaking. Yeah, I'm gonna finish my study in filmmaking once I make my 3rd feature film. At that time, if my plan is really good, we are now discussing my 3rd feature film. At that time, I think I'm going to study again because I already finished my autodidact, time of learning films. Now I'm trying to, if I can study in a university, maybe I can explain something more simple and so that I can talk with more people. That's what I'm thinking. Also,
if I can go to a film school, maybe I would learn if it's like a media and digital cinema, you know, because we see that could be the futures of cinema if we are not really understand what's happening here in this new platform. Maybe we're gonna lose. And I was thinking, because I work in Jogja Network, our festival director is academic. He was a film academia, and I was talking with him, and maybe it's better for the festival also if there is somebody else other than him that have like a education background, so that we can explain and curate and also program more interesting works around Asia. Then we can also have somebody who can write for that, because we need that guy who can write, because now in our festival only BISFF and festival director who can write really well, you know, in English, and because we need to I think also realize on how important it is to write our own story. I mean, using I don't know, for Network, for example, they have this a program that if I work for a jury in this festival, for example, they will ask me to write something for Network. So it's like a good information for people who not attending this festival, still can know what happened in this film festival on much bigger information. Something like a festival review, or you can interview somebody, something like that. But then it's also interesting to work to talk about these two different worlds between short film and feature film. For me, maybe I'm so lucky, but for me it's not really that irritating, because the first feature film that I worked with is I produced it myself. And the second feature film that's now in editing, I work with our friend. So I don't need to work like some for producers. And they hired me. They give me money, like about $250,000. They give me story, but I can make anything over it. I can make anything that I want, as long as don't break the limit of the money. So I can mix anything. It's happened because I think the producer is our friend. He was one of the festival advisor on our festival. It's like a board of advisor, Hanung Bramantyo is one of like a really famous film director commercially in Indonesia. And he was born in our city, Yogyakarta. So he connect with a lot of people in Jogja. That's why he helped our festival. And now he start to move like his own movement. He talked to many investors in Jakarta to give him money, so that he can put the money on our city and work with young filmmakers, that they can make anything that they want, as long as don't break the limit of the money and the story. This producer gives the story, but the filmmaker is free to do anything. This is also a good movement, because usually we work like from this direction, right? But this director, he worked from this direction. So it's like we complete each other. So it's now for us, it's more like an option. You can work with anyone, with any kind of platform, as long as you're not losing yourself. I think that's still the most important thing. And by working with these film directors, because we are friends, so I don't need to lie to him, right? I can just do what I want to do, because he's picking me up, right? From artists, executive directors, to producers and other producers. So he picked me up, something like that. And this is not only for me, actually. This offer is for right now, it's only for Yogyakarta filmmakers, short filmmakers, so that they can, if they're willing to work on the commercial or making like their own film, as long as there is not too much money, he can help. He can
do the presentation and be the producer for them. And as the prototype, there is like a 4 film project from January and February. There is 3 feature film that he produced and 1 short film that he produced. And all of them is like a Yogyakarta filmmakers, short filmmaker before that. They travel around the world using a short film. And by doing that, the idea is actually we are also trying in our festival, because at that time we realized that the audience for short film and feature film is also separate. So we make this program in our festival that we combine 1 short film and 1 feature film, and it works really well last year. So it's like a combination of audiences. Now we cannot start to move on that direction again, because for us, the most important thing right now is we can strengthen our power and working together. It's more like a collaboration that we can be mutualized. If you doesn't want to really work on a cheesy story, like for commercial, you just say no. It's okay. Don't be afraid that you will be, no friend again with him, for example. I don't want this story, because it's too cheesy for me. But maybe some other directors want it. That's why we just spread the words everywhere that maybe someone would catch the story, something like that. And it's still happening. It soon would be connected with what's been doing, because if many independent filmmakers start to realize that they manage themselves on the creative management, that they are not afraid of working with money. So then we need this new platform of distribution to try to return back the money, something like that. So it's like a connection. In Jakarta, in Makassar, in Palu, in many cities in Indonesia start to move. Like, maybe now they realize that we cannot depend on only a government, or we cannot depend only on the commercial world, because we cannot switch them. There's too far away, right? So by using this person that work as a bridge for us, we try to connect with people that believe on a good film. We doesn't really care on is it commercial or independent. As long as it's good, then it can affect the audience. This is what we are trying to do. But for doing that, we need to collaborate. We need to be not afraid of meeting with the commercial directors, or we are not afraid to meet with an artistic director. We need to work together without losing our own self. And it's work now. And our festival is trying to facilitate more on that kind of meeting. That's why we initiate this new program here, focusing on Indonesian cinema. Before we never have this program. We talk about this to try to connect more with more directors in the film industry that maybe they have a same concept like us, but we didn't know yet. That's why this program is trying to select like 5 or 6 film in the film that produced in the film industry commercially, but we select like a few works that it's outstanding or it's good film. Then the director will come. Then the director on the commercial world will knew that there is so many film community. There is that they can connect again and again and again. Then maybe in the next 5 years something's gonna happen. Starting from this, because we are now not really talking about city anymore. We try to elaborate all the power that we have, the connection that we have among city in Indonesia, that we can strengthen each other by sharing knowledge and making a bigger networking, by working with the people that we can trust without lying to ourselves. Yeah. I'm sorry.
이제 인도네시아 얘기를 들어봤고 저희 싱가포르 얘기를 들어봤으면 합니다. 이제 제가 처음에 질문드렸던 부분이 이제 여기서 얘기가 많이 길어졌지만 이제 각국의 이제 배급 상황에 대해서 한번 들어보려고 하는데요. 그리고 이제 필립체 같은 경우는 그 이제 뭐 싱가포르에 사시기도 하지만 6개, 5개 영화제의 프로그램 컨설턴트로 일을 하고 계시잖아요. 그래서 각국의 영화의 상황들에 대해서도 그러니까 지금 저희가 인도네시아, 한국, 그 다음에 중국 이렇게 그 각국에서 오셨는데 그 외의 나라들의 상황에 대해서도 아마 조금 얘기를 덧붙여 주실 수 있지 않을까 하는 생각이 듭니다.
So we've heard about in detail about the situation in Indonesia and a little bit about Singapore and also China and Korea. And since Philip is working as a program consultant for various film festivals, 5 or 6 I think, maybe you could tell us about the situations in each of the countries that you're helping out with.
Well, actually, there's one more Chinese director here, right? And I'm interested to hear from him because he's from the 80s generation, which is a decade further from Chuning. So maybe you can tell us about the Chinese experience from your generation. It's a hot seat.
Thank you. When it comes to the circumstance of distributions in China's filmmaking, maybe there were two aspects in filmmaking. On one hand, the Chinese film box rose at a very fast speed this year, and every year it made a miracle. The film box. So more and more support to the commercial filmmaking, and maybe if I want to make a commercial film, I can receive the support, and I can search for money more and more easier. But on the other hand, the independent filmmaking is more and more difficult in China. And I remember that 2012, when I started to make my first documentary, and then I was lucky to be selected by a documentary film festival. But later on, they told me that the film festival was forbidden. And yes, in 2013, my second documentary was selected by the Beijing Independent Film Festival, but it couldn't happen again. And it seems that the government was afraid of independent film in China very much. And when the new government in charge this year, and I feel that it's more and more difficult for independent film festival to happen in China, and so that's quite different between the commercial filmmaking and independent filmmaking. Maybe if I want to make films by myself, it's very hard to let the audience know, because as you know, in China we didn't have the art cinema to show this film, and when we finish our film, maybe we just can show the films in a bookshop, in a coffee shop, with low qualities, with not good environments of screening, and that's it. Last year I finished my first fiction films, and A Piece of Time, with a very, very low budget by myself. Now I don't know how to get the support and how to get the money to make my next fiction film. Maybe through this film festival or the other international film festival, I can know more programmer or know more foundation about the filmmaking. Maybe it's a choice for me, for me to search some support, maybe, yes.
So when those festivals were shut down in China, and you only had to show your films in coffee shops, you say, and couldn't you tour your films in universities or something like that? What else was the distribution outlet for the films when you couldn't show them in the Chinese festivals?
Usually universities is allowed to show this film, but they have the things to suggest from government. Maybe to me, my film is okay. It didn't how to say? It didn't face to some just some social topic, some conflict with government. But to others, maybe if you show in university, you will also be forbidden. Yes. So the environment in independent film is not good this year. Yeah.
Mother, you've got another customer for your website. But there's one question I'm gonna ask you, Mother. But I work for this Asian film online website, which is based in the US. The company is called Alexander Street Press. And I know that after a couple of years when we were showing stuff, we found that it's very costly to digitize short films. So, I don't know, is it cheaper in Indonesia or what?
I think they shoot digitally right now and just send the movie with the same like you send your movie to the film festival. It's enough. I think if it's like a feature film, you want to put the what's the ratio? It's yeah. It's also we have a USB that is time frame. I mean we can like 2 days or 3 days streaming only. We have a program that can do that as well. So if you want to send for example, your film, go to buttoninja.com and we know we can sell your film to art houses in America or other country or maybe in the remote island or in Makassar and then it's up to them. They make their own event. We just we just provide the content, the film. So it's up to them if they want to make an event with the party or with the food or with the band also. It's up to them. So we're just helping to prolong your film life. Yeah, prolong your film life. Yeah.
Do you want to ask any questions?
I just want to tell you that in 2 weeks' time, if you log on to the NatPack website, we'll have exclusive photos of Mona taken by Putra, the brother of her actress Putri.
예, 그 DMG 다큐멘터리 국제영화제에서 프로그래머, 그러니까 아시아랑 한국 영화를 담당하시는 프로그래머님이 오셨는데, 잠깐 그 한국 다큐멘터리 제작, 아무래도 이제 저희가 지금 인디펜던트, 그 독립 영화라고 이렇게 느껴지는 그 안에서도 특히나 이제 제작 상황이라든지 이런 것들에 대해서 특히나 한국 쪽에 좀 어떤 다큐멘터리 제작 상황이나 배급이나 이런 것들에 대해서 조금 상세하게 얘기를 해주시면 좋은 정보 공유가 되지 않을까 싶습니다. 박혜미 프로그래머님이십니다.
we'd like to welcome Park Hye-mi, who is the programmer for Asian and Korean films at the DMZ Docs Documentary Film Festival in Korea. And so we'd like to ask her to talk a little bit about trying to make documentaries in Korea, and also because we're talking about the independent film scene, what it's like to make films in Korea and how they can be distributed.
네, 당연히 한국말로. 네, 안녕하세요. DMZ 다큐 영화제 제작하는 박혜미라고 하고요. 다큐멘터리 북한에서 말씀드릴 수 있을 것 같은데 전반적으로 상황은 비슷할 거라고 생각은 하는데 저희 같은 경우는 좀 그런 것 같아요. 그러니까 다큐멘터리를 제작하는 거는 뭐 인디도 있고 상업 영화도 있는데 어쨌든 배급을 하는 과정은 극장을 통해서 관객들과 만나게 되는데 다만 이제 극장 배급 시스템 자체가 상업 멀티플렉스들이 독점하고 있기 때문에 그러니까 정말 엄청나게 많은 개봉관 수를 확보해서 개봉을 하느냐 아니면 적은 그래서 어떤 경우는 뭐 1개관, 2개관 이런 식으로 극장 개봉을 해서 관객들과 만나느냐의 차이인 것 같은데 그렇게라도 극장 개봉을 하는 거는 개봉을 통해서 그 홍보가 되고 관객들에게 알려지기 때문인 것 같아요. 그래서 극장 개봉을 한 다음에 YPTV나 온라인 배급 같은 것들을 진행하고 있는 것 같고요. 저희는 뭐 온라인 배급 이런 것들도 이미 많이 활성화되어 있어서 그런 것들은 뭐 잘 이루어지고 있는 것 같은데 다만 얼마나 많은 관객들에게 닿는지에 대한 차이 정도가 있는 것 같고 아까 말씀하신 것처럼 뭐 저희 공동체 상영이라고 하는데요. 뭐 그게 카페든 뭐 대학이든 도서관이든 이런 곳들에서 하는 상영들도 네, 이루어지고 있습니다.
So I'm going to talk about the documentary scene mostly, and I think it's very similar to what you're going through. Because in the case of documentaries in Korea, there are commercial documentaries and there are also independent documentaries. But in the case of distribution, they both try to aim for theatrical release to a certain extent. But because the distribution system is dominated by the multiplex theaters, either you go all the way and try and secure as many theaters or as many screens as possible, or you decide to go with just 1 or 2 screens. And the reason that we do this, that filmmakers do this, is because when you have your film shown in a theater, that is promotion right there. So after that, you get your name out there, you get the name of the film out there first through theatrical release, and then you move on to IPTV or online distribution. So we're doing a lot of online distribution now, but of course, which film gets seen by how many people is a totally different question, and it depends on case by case. But we also do screenings, like you were saying, at cafes or libraries.
그래서 좀 점점 당연히 독립 다큐와 상업 영화가 있긴 한데 좀 그 구분이 모호해지는 경우도 있는 것 같은데요. 최근에 이마 그 강을 건너지 마오라고 한국에서 굉장히 히트한 다큐멘터리가 있는데 만들어진 건 독립 다큐의 방식으로 제작이 되었고 DMZ 다큐 영화제에서도 제작 지원을 하기도 했는데 이게 완성이 된 이후에는 그 CJ랑 또 대명 문화공장이라는 그 투자사한테 그러니까 개봉이랑 배급 투자 마케팅 투자를 받아서 거의 500만 명 맞죠? 500만 명의 그 엄청난 대흥행을 거두었어요. 이마. 네, 그래서 만들어질 제작 당시에는 이제 독립 다큐였는데 개봉 이후에는 상업 다큐가 되는 그런 현상들이 좀 생기는 것 같습니다. 네, 그게 좀 저는 한국 말씀하신 것과 좀 차이일 수 있을 것 같아요. 네.
So recently we see some documentaries that are originally independent documentaries that have become kind of commercialized as well. So the boundary between the two are becoming a little bit more vague. For instance, a recent documentary called My Love Don't Cross That River about a very old, lovely couple that started off being made as an independent documentary, but once it was finished, it received support from the DMZ Docs Film Festival. But then after that, it received distribution and marketing support or investment from CJ and Taemyeong, and it was hugely successful. And the box office results was like 5 million people came to see it. Really lovely couple. was at the pitching session. Really lovely. Very sad. Okay. So we see that films like this, or Old Partner, about the old man and the bull or cow, where they started off as an independent documentary and it became a commercial documentary.
하지만 대부분의 다큐멘터리나 뭐 단편 영화, 독립 영화들은 말씀하신 다른 아시아 국가들과 비슷하게 좀 열악한 제작 환경이나 제작비를 가지고 제작되고 있는 것 같고요. 그렇습니다. DMZ 다큐 영화 좀 홍보하세요. 네, 그래서 DMZ 다큐 영화제에서도 뭐 다큐멘터리이긴 하지만 제작 아시아 국가의 프로젝트들을 제작 지원하고 있으니까요. 네, 많이 관심 가져주시면 좋겠습니다.
So the situation is very similar here in Korea, as you guys, where making an independent documentary or an independent film is not that great. The circumstances are not that great or favorable, and also the funding. But one good news that I would like to say is that the DMZ Docs does support projects from coming out of Asia. So please submit your work. Personally, I work at the DMZ Docs Festival every year. It's a great festival. It's lots of fun. Everybody's trying to help everybody. So I want to see you guys there.
예, 한국의 상황들을 저희 집행위원장님이나 DMZ 다큐멘터리 프로그래머님께 얘기를 들어봤는데요. 마지막으로 혹시 얘기를 더 하시고 싶은 분 안 계신가요?
Would anybody else like to add?
To add something and have a question about?
Actually, I have talked, but I really hope to share my heart feelings after you, because I have shared with Taiji and Baishen. I think not we choose film choose us. That's like Philip and Isabel said. It's a mission. So when you talk about film, I really feel the whole environment were connected by what our love about films. And I want to say that I really totally agree with what you said. Before we only joined animation festival, and we found some problems about animation. So when we come film festival, we feel our point of views expand. And films too, not only limited in film field. Like the opening of this year festival, we use dance, we use live band with installation of images. Yeah, so that's why I think film should connect it with more variety fields of artists to show our feeling and our ability in artists. So I want to share about we in festival, there another chance to develop your idea and project that is artistic residency. Like last year in La Rochelle, there's a film festival, also there artistic residency center in Monday. It not only focus on animation or film, it's a variety of drama, live performance, music. So actually it's a field to how we can do a project no matter what kind of art. The aim is what we want to show. So the form is the most the important thing, that we can break the boundaries to make one thing. And recently I worked for Think in Vancouver. It's also break the boundaries of field. It's focused on in the future. Each problem or issue should be solved by all the countries, not only one country, like safe electricity, like the pollution, need people work all together. So I think it's a trend, not only about art project. The social issue also should be solved by people's connection. That's why I think we need network. And when we expand our point of view, I think many problems can be solved at that time. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. 그러니까 굉장히 죄송합니다. 예, 본인의 소감을 얘기해 주셨고, 그 다음에 제가 알고 있기로는 이제 그 두 분의 얘기를 종합해서도 더 이제 약간 정보를 더 이렇게 추가하게 된 것 같고요. 우선은 중국 영화 같은 경우는 아직까지도, 특히나 중국 독립 영화 같은 경우는 이렇게 차이지 감독이 얘기했듯이 뭐 서점이나 아니면 카페나 이렇게 약간 아까 DMZ에서는 공동체 상영이라고 하셨는데, 이게 극장이 아닌 다른 곳에서 소개가 된다든지, 그러니까 정부의 어떤 허가나 그다음에 규제나 이런 것들을 피해서 상영이 된다거나, 아니면 독립영화제가 아예 개최가 되지 못한다거나, 이런 어떤 규제들이 굉장히 좀 강한 것 같아요. 이제 그러다 보니까 제가 만난 다른 뭐 프로그래머 분들이나 이런 분들은 도대체 중국 영화를 어떻게 찾아야 되나, 소개를 하고 싶은데 라는 얘기를 굉장히 많이 들었었어요. 그러니까 중국의 상황 같은 경우는 제가 봤을 때는, 그러니까 제가 알고 있기로는 그러니까 어떤 정치적인, 그러니까 정부의 규제나 이런 것들이 굉장히 심하다고 알고 있고, 특히나 이제 그래서 해외 영화제에서 소개가 됐을 때 이제 뭔가 어떤 배급의 창고라든지 이런 것들이 좀 생기는 걸로 알고 있습니다. 제가 알고 있는 게 맞는 거죠.
So thank you for sharing your comments, and I think that like Taiji, the director said, it's possible to show your films in different places other than a regular movie theater. Like the DMZ Film Festival, they have community screenings at different places that are not theaters. But in the case of China, it seems that it's very different. It's much, much harder because of the government restriction. I mean, you were saying that a film festival was banned, so that's very severe. And I think, so that has led to programmers like myself asking each other, then how can we get access to Chinese films? Where can we find them? Because of the political regulation and the government regulation. And I think that up to now, possibly the major channel to see or get access to Chinese films has been when they were invited to an international film festival outside of China, and then possibly they get to be distributed a little bit. Is that so? That's the main channel.
네, 그런 메인 채널로서 이제 부산국제 단편영화제가 하나의 역할을 했으면 좋겠고, 아까도 이제 이스마일도 얘기했지만, 특히나 이제 족자 넷팩 아시아영화제 같은 경우는 설명을 들었을 때 영화를 그 안에서 만들고, 그러니까 영화제는 보통 그런 것 같습니다. 영화를 소개하고 그 영화와 관계된 게스트들과 관객이 만나서 서로 소통하는 그런 장소인데, 우선 거기에 한 가지 뭔가 또 다른 기능이 덧붙인 영화제라는 생각이 들어요. 그래서 영화를 직접 만들고 소개하고 네트워킹을 하고 관객과 만나고, 그러니까 그런 어떤 다양한 일들을 하고 있는 굉장히 좋은 영화제인 것 같고요. 제 개인적인 관심으로는 이 영화가 이제 만들어져서 소개가 되는 것 외에도 영화에 대한 어떤 제작 지원, 그 다음에 영화의 배급, 이런 것들이 함께 지원될 수 있고 네트워킹이 되는 그런 영화제가 앞으로 부산국제 단편 영화제가 되기를 희망합니다.
Sorry, I'm trying to read my writing. Okay, so through the main channels of film festivals, films are getting out there and reaching audiences, and I would like to see the Busan International Short Film Festival become another channel, another platform like that, so we can help introduce directors and invite guests so that they can meet with the audience, so that could lead to some sort of support in production and also distribution as well. And I would like to see BISFF be at the center of that.
예, 이렇게 와주신 여러분들께 감사드리고, 우선은 혹시 플립챗 더 하시는, do you have any comments and do you have any questions? Thank you. 네, 지금 저희가 이렇게 부산국제 단편영화제에 방문해주신 그 아시아 게스트들을 모시고 이렇게 서로 각국에 대해서 상황에 대해서 만들어봤는데요. 이 만남을 계기로 저희가 앞으로 어떤 네트워크를 가지고 그 다음에 서로의 그 각국의 영화들을 소개하고 그 다음에 제가 말씀드렸던 어떤 제작 지원이라든지 그 다음에 배급이라든지 이런 것들 정보를 공유하면서 각국에서 열심히 활동해서 각자의 영화들이 조금 더 성공적인 기회를 가졌으면 좋겠고, 부산국제 단편영화제도 앞으로 지원을 많이 할 예정입니다. 집행위원장님 맞죠?
So I'd like to thank all of you for coming as guests from Asia to the Busan International Short Film Festival, and I hope that we can continue to build and grow this network so that we'll be able to introduce more films from more countries, and so we can also share a lot of information about different distribution channels in the future as well. And I hope that this will in turn lead to more successful opportunities for all of your films. And the Busan International Short Film Festival will continue to increase its support, right?
Our festival director said,
저희가 내년에는 올해는 아시아 특별전이 하나의 프로그램이었지만 내년에는 조금 더 많은 다양한 아시아의 영화들을 소개할 예정이고 앞으로 좀 더 아시아 영화에 주목하는 영화제가 되고자 노력을 할 예정입니다.
So this year the special program for Asian films was limited to one program, but from next year we're planning to expand that so we can show a wider variety of Asian cinema and put more focus on Asian films.
올해 이렇게 부산국제 단편영화제 오늘 마지막 폐막인데요. 폐막까지 이렇게 여러분과 함께해서 너무 기쁘고 그 다음에 조금 이따 폐막식장에서 뵀으면 좋겠고 올해뿐만이 아니라 내년 후내년에도 여러분의 좋은 작품으로 부산국제 단편영화제에서 여러분을 만나고 관객과 함께 만났으면 합니다.
So today is the closing ceremony, and I'm very happy that we were able to spend this time together the past few days, and I hope to see you at the closing ceremony and also next year and the year after that, and continue to come back. And I would like to add, if you have like a trailer that you want to submit to any Korean film festival, and if you think it would help your chances to have Korean subtitles, I'm available and I will work for free if it's a trailer. If it's longer, we'll have to work something out. 제가 개인적인 생각은 한국에 있는 영화제에 이제 출품하시고 싶은데 트레일러라든가 그런 거 혹시 한글 자막을 먼저 입혀서 하시고 싶으시면은 트레일러 짧은 거에 한해서 무료로 해드리려고 했습니다.
Networking, yeah, good. Yeah, she's my old partner from 2005. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we are going. Yeah, let's meet. Let's meet in the closing ceremony place later. And thank you for being here. And see you later, guys. And also, I want to thank you. I appreciate Ismail's and Felicia's participation here. Please.